Welcome to This Explainer. I am so thrilled you're joining us today because we're jumping right into something truly fascinating about human behavior. You know those times when people act in ways that just completely baffle us? Well, to make sense of it, we're going to use what psychologists often call the iceberg model. Basically, what we see on the surface, the actions, the inactions, the dead silence, that's literally just the tiny tip of the iceberg. The massive, hidden structure beneath the water, that's what we're unpacking today. We're going on a deep dive into the hidden psychology of emotional protection. So let's confront a scenario pretty much all of us have faced at some point. Think about a time when someone you really care about, a partner, a friend, maybe a family member, just completely shut down during a fight or a moment of intense hurt. They didn't argue, they didn't explain themselves, they just went completely maddeningly quiet. And, our gut reaction to that is usually anger or pure confusion, right? We just assume their silence means they don't care about the situation, or worse, they don't care about us. But what if we've got this totally backward?
If we step back and look at the actual psychological patterns here, a totally different picture starts to emerge. On the surface, yeah, it totally looks like indifference, but psychology tells us that what's really happening is this invisible, massive wave of emotional overwhelm. It's not that they're feeling nothing. Actually, scratch that, it's the exact opposite. They are feeling absolutely everything all at once, and their internal system has literally just overloaded.
Section 1. The Myth of Indifference and the Shield of Silence.
When we stop looking at silence as a rejection and start seeing it as a form of protection, this really powerful clinical reality comes into focus. See, for some folks, expressing pain never actually felt safe. Maybe growing up, reacting openly just led to more conflict, or their vulnerability was weaponized against them. So in a moment of really acute hurt, their brain literally triggers silence just to survive the moment. They aren't consciously plotting to ignore you. Their subconscious mind is just throwing up a shield to stop any more damage. It's a deep-seated defense mechanism all about emotional self-protection.
Section 2. The Weight of Words. Too much to say.
Now, I know this is the exact question you're probably screaming in your head when you're staring at a literal wall of silence. Why can't you just tell me what's wrong? Why can't you just say how you feel? I mean, it feels like they are deliberately holding out on you. You are practically begging for any sign of life, and all you get back is a dial tone. It is incredibly frustrating for a partner to stand there trying so hard to communicate and getting absolutely zero in return. But let's actually break down the mechanics of this mental block, because it makes a lot of sense. First off, intense emotions demand processing time. Not everyone can just magically translate a huge rush of pain into perfectly articulate sentences on the spot. Second, and this is a huge one, they don't go quiet because they have nothing to say. They go quiet because they have way too much to say. The sheer volume of thoughts in their head is just paralyzing. And finally, there's this deep, powerful fear of saying the wrong thing. When you're that hurt, words can come out so wrong, so they aren't withholding out of malice. They're desperately trying to avoid regret, choosing to take a step back rather than having a destructive, emotionally charged blow-up that they can never take back.
Section 3. Echoes of the Past. Learned Silence.
This is where we really have to practice some serious empathy. A lot of people grew up in environments where they felt chronically unheard or just flat out dismissed. Over time, that creates this heartbreaking reality. Their developing brain learned a pretty terrible lesson. It learned that explaining how they feel simply does not lead to being understood. It just leads to being exhausted. So silence becomes the default. It's a safer bet. If speaking up changes absolutely nothing, the brain efficiently decides, hey, let's save the energy and just stay quiet, mostly to avoid the pain of feeling ignored all over again.
And that brings us right down to the deepest, darkest part of that iceberg. Listen, just because someone looks super calm, entirely unbothered, and totally at peace on the outside does not mean they aren't affected. Psychology shows us that they're actually processing all that pain inwardly. They're doing this intense internal analysis, reflecting, and just trying to make sense of these massive feelings completely on their own. They literally need that silent space before they can even attempt to respond in a clear way.
Section 4. Protective Patterns. Hidden Behaviors.
Now, this instinct for emotional protection, it actually connects the dots across some totally different areas of life. We've talked about going quiet in an argument, but what about a student avoiding their studies? Look, it seems like pure laziness, but it's often a deep fear that trying hard and failing will completely wreck their self-image. Or what about the chronic overthinker? That's not just a personality quirk. That is the brain frantically trying to predict and control an unpredictable world just to feel safe. Or the person who dreams big but never takes action? Well, taking action risks ruining the perfect dream they've built in their head. And even folks who stay single long-term, a lot of times they aren't afraid of relationships. They've just learned from past burnout to fiercely protect their energy using strict pattern recognition.
In every single one of these cases, we are witnessing the exact same psychological engine running behind the scenes, the mechanics of avoidance. The brain is just doing whatever it takes to avoid discomfort. Overthinkers exhaust themselves, obsessing over the past, but instead of finding answers, they just generate more doubt. Dreamers, their brains actually give them a false hit of achievement just by imagining the goal, which completely kills the urgency to do the hard work. Students avoid books because the brain prefers an instant dopamine hit over a delayed, stressful reward. And those who stay single have built up this huge tolerance for solitude. They prioritize their independence and use past betrayals to expertly screen out anyone who doesn't align with them.
So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is this. Whether it's your partner completely shutting down mid-argument, a student staring blankly at a wall instead of their textbook, or a visionary who never launches their business, it is not laziness. It is not apathy. It is literally just the human brain doing exactly what it evolved to do, protecting itself from perceived emotional, mental, or identity-based harm.
Section 5. Reading the unspoken. Beneath the surface.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to remember this. Their silence is a shield, not a lack of emotion. Once you truly grasp how people process intense feelings, you stop misreading their quietness as a weakness, or as them pulling away, or as some sort of personal attack. You finally start seeing that defensive shield for exactly what it is. I want to leave you with a question to chew on today. Who in your life right now is quietly asking to be understood not through their words, but through their silence? The next time someone you care about goes totally quiet on you, I challenge you to look beneath the tip of the iceberg. Recognize the overwhelm, give them the space their brain desperately needs to process, and just remember, sometimes the quietest people are the ones feeling the absolute most. Thank you so much for joining me today, and keep looking beneath the surface.